के यूट्यूबर्स व्यूज के लिए कुछ भी करते हैं, कभी कोई हरकत, कभी कुछ कैसा, ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए. सब्सक्राइब टू दोस्तकास्ट.
What is up my friends? Welcome to another episode of Dostcast. मेरा नाम है विनम्र कसाना. If you're new to my channel or on the podcast, consider subscribing because we release new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. आज की हमारी गेस्ट का नाम है Anica Mann. I met her at India Art Fair where she was leading the Young Collectors program, but in her daily life, she's an archaeologist, a cultural advisor, a program builder and a podcaster. तो अनिका के बारे में कुछ बता देता हूँ मैं आपको थोड़ा सा. She currently is the director of Citizen Archaeology Foundation where she's heading the Global Explorer program जहाँ पे they work to make archaeology accessible to citizens using satellites. Pretty cool stuff. In the past, she was also an art advisor at Delhi Art Gallery. Then she also taught in academia at Jindal School of Liberal Arts and Humanities. As far as her education is concerned, Anica has studied from SOAS University of London, एक MA History of Art and Archaeology के अंदर, फिर Kyoto University से Japanese Iconography and Indic Religions, and finally University of Oxford से Masters of Philosophy, Sanskrit and Classical Indian Languages, Literature and Linguistics. Natural सी बात है, Anica जितनी ज़्यादा पढ़ी लिखी हैं उतनी ज़्यादा fun है. We had a blast talking about living in different cultures in the world. What is it like to do archaeology with the Archaeological Survey of India, and what is it like to do a bunch of things and be really cool at them. The episode with Anica Mann begins in 3, 2, 1. What's up Anica? Welcome to Dostcast. सबसे पहले तो मैं दोस्तों ये बताना चाहता हूँ, ये DPS रोहिणी बैच 2005 की ज्योग्राफी की टॉपर हैं.
Yes.
So all the intros that you listen to, just discard that. That's where we're going to start at. But seriously, I had the privilege of meeting you at IAF where we worked not so closely together, but I worked with Vaibhav a bit.
Correct.
And then I looked at your LinkedIn, and your career is literally all over the entire globe.
Map.
मतलब cultural map भी क्या बोलेंगे? Like you've done everything from archaeology, running your own Instagram page, art, yada yada yada, and then running a school.
Yeah.
सबसे बढ़िया चीज़ तो जो मेरे को पूछनी थी ना, because I have this book like an explorer's field guide, some 2-pound book that I bought from the UK once.
Yeah, cool.
So क्या होता है, like do you go with a shovel to places and excavate, I don't know, cool stuff yourself? Like how does it happen?
Using a shovel while excavating is a big no. Because if there's a wall underneath it, you might just shovel into it. So you literally khurpi, brush, you do it like that. But no, that's not what I do. I basically work in exploration. So I'll go there and I'll look at a mound and I'll examine it and I'll use satellite imagery and then I'll try and see what is underneath it. And exploration. I don't excavate as much, but once the excavation happens and things are found, then as an art historian, I kick in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you just keep the mic closer to your face? I'm so sorry. This is
It's like
है ना? हाँ.
quite intimate, huh?
आवाज़ बहुत बढ़िया आती है.
Yeah.
अच्छा, so you don't actually go on digs then. You don't go and like find and hunt for stuff that someone has given you like the indications. कुछ examples मिल सकते हैं like?
No, 100% I do go on digs. There are two kinds of expeditions that I would ideally go on. One is an already explored site to see the state of it currently, and the second is to go on an unexplored site and to see कहाँ dig करना चाहिए. ठीक है ना? So you survey the entire thing. So for example, actually on Friday I am going to an Indus Valley Civilization site, Rakhigadi, which is all over the news right now because a lot of stuff is being found there. So their excavation is happening. So I don't take the khurpi and the brush and the everything and get down in the in the pit. But whatever is being found, I document very closely. Whatever is being excavated, I examine it and try and understand as to what time period, etc. would it be as comparison to other things that have been found. So my thing is exploration and art historic.
So who decides कि यार ये एक site है? Like why do certain places start popping up in the archaeology world all of a sudden?
Most often it's a farmer who's tilling his field and has found something. Second, it could be construction is happening and they found something, but generally they don't report it because जैसे they found something, उनका construction रुक जाता है बेचारों का.
अच्छा.
तो but most often it is that. It is also very interesting because India में काफ़ी inter-fighting of kingdoms होते थे. तो जब होते थे तो first thing that they used to attack is like either a temple thing or a religious thing that has a lot of money in it.
Right.
So when the pandits used to get to know कि कोई आ रहा है, first thing they used to take the treasure and bury it somewhere. और उसके पूरे अलग ही rituals हैं, उसके अपने शास्त्र हैं कि कैसे खोदना है, कैसे उसमें अभिषेका करना है, कैसे ritual implements वगैरह.
So basically saving your treasure in the time of attack. इसके अंदर भी कुछ there's some ways to do it.
There is ways to do it, and it was so extant, it used to happen so much that there are laws to protect that buried treasure if found.
In the Constitution of India.
In the Constitution of India. Actually, not in the Constitution of India. There are many laws that came in the 70s, in 72, in 76. A lot of archaeological laws came about. And it is around that time that a law about the buried treasure came about.
Okay.
So, if you find it, if a farmer is tilling his land और खट कुछ नीचे plow के नीचे उसको सुनाई देता है, उसने निकाला मूर्तियाँ और मोहर और whatever is there, तो वो क्या करेगा? वो उसका हो गया. Actually, it does not belong to him. It belongs to the state government, not even to the central government. But say, so what happens to something that is found, that is originally not theirs, but was found on their land that is owned by them? Uske laws bhi aa gaye.
Do people who find archaeological stuff that is of importance, do they ever get a cut or कोई reward, shabashi, कुछ भी किसी भी type का?
They do get some sabashi in the media and you know the fact that it was found there. They don't get any remuneration or economic benefit out of it. Most often, it actually is. It's still a developing law. Right. It kind of ties them somehow, because if something is found, then that land cannot be tilled, it has to be frozen,
right,
so that full exploration can happen of that land, तो वो थोड़ा सा वो हो जाता है. But I'm sure for the time period that the land is being used by the government for exploration and digging purposes, they are compensated financially for that.
What's the coolest or a bunch of cool things that you found when you were like doing these archaeological things? First of all, like उसके अंदर भी, do you get a call from someone saying, "Hi Anica, हमें पता है you're this archaeologist, you have all of these things going for you. आ जाओ इस site को देख लो." Sort of like what happens when people build a house and then they call an architect कि देख लो कि क्या बन सकता है यहाँ पे.
A lot of people come to make me see their art collections.
Okay.
ना, but archaeological stuff इसमें ना काफ़ी grey area है. और काफ़ी लूटिंग होती है. इंडिया इज़ वन ऑफ द लार्जेस्ट विक्टिम ऑफ एंटिक्विटी लूटिंग. In fact, a smuggler called Subhash Kapoor, who had started a gallery on 5th Avenue in New York City called Art of the Past, and उसके sculptures in the biggest museums around the world, सब में आए. This is a gift from Subhash Kapoor or whatever. But this guy currently is in Chennai jail.
Wow.
Why? Because Interpol, FBI, Chennai Idol Police, ASI and customs officers found out that he was one of the largest commodity smuggler in the world. Okay, and his commodities were Indian antiquities. So it's a very spicy story. Also, you can read it in the book called The Idol Thief by my good friend S. Vijay Kumar, who is quite a cool treasure hunter. Not treasure hunter, an idol repatriator.
What's a repatriator? Someone who gets treasure to where it belongs.
Correct.
So, matlab, how much of this is Indiana Jones meets, the mummy, जैसे वो जाते हैं.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they were Egyptologists in the actual film, but like just the fact that they find something, then they wear those desert fatigues, then they go and they hunt for stuff, and there's all this. मतलब इसके अंदर वो कितना % adventure या एक
full adventure होता है. Actually, the project that I work for is called Global Explorer,
right?
Which is working with the Archaeological Survey of India to set up their satellite remote sensing facility and training capacity over there. My boss of Global Explorer is this very cool woman, Egyptologist and space archaeologist, Sarah Parkak. In 2016, she won the TED Prize Award, where she won $1 million. With that $1 million, she founded Global Explorer, which uses satellite imagery to find and monitor archaeological sites that may be under the surface of the earth. She went to Egypt and did a lot of work. She found, through using this technology, she found over 1,000 new pyramids, burial sites, great amount of digging holes जहाँ पर looters dig कर रहे हैं और नीचे से निकाल रहे हैं treasure,
लाइव उनके सामने ही dig कर रहे हैं.
वो सब उनने सैटेलाइट इमेजरी पर देखा और फिर वहाँ पर जाके एक्सप्लोर किया कि होल्स हैं. और फिर उनने देखा कि एक साल में 3 होल्स थे, 5 साल के बाद 15. So she's gone back in the record and seen कि how much it is increased in that same location because it's in the middle of nowhere. So I work with her, and she is that exact situation. In fact, she was interviewed by Stephen Colbert in his late night show, and she's exactly the copy of like what optically Indiana Jones and Brendan Fraser, my fave, look like when they were out on the field. She looks exactly like that, like Columbia ka shirt pehna hua. You have to use like scientifically good clothing when you're out on the field.
Right.
Yeah.
What, like, has a wall ever come down on you? Something like that has happened? Like, are there accidents at these archaeological sites, if at all?
So many accidents. A wall hasn't come down on me, but when you say wall, I remember I was a fellow with this organization called Global Heritage Fund, which basically, does a lot of work on monuments that are recently discovered and explored and makes those monuments more connected to the community and also conserves them. Right?
By how? Like by कुछ walks कराते हैं? Do they inform the public more?
The whole thing, community based tourism करवाते हैं. जैसे कि मैं एक बहुत ही छोटे गांव in the northern part of Cambodia में गई थी, जहाँ पर मैं इस Global Heritage Fund की फेलो थी और मेरा रिसर्च टॉपिक था कि ये टेम्पल है और इसमें बहुत सारी फीमेल डिपिक्शंस हैं. And this is a Buddhist temple, but these female depictions are very strange and there are too many of them. And it's consistent to all the other 200 temples that this one particular guy built. All right? So I had to go and quantify and qualify what these female depictions and में क्या art historically क्या difference था. Anyway, this temple is in the middle of nowhere. It is a small village in the northern part of Cambodia. Cambodia had gone through genocide when we were children. Okay, and all those Khmer
During the
Rouge,
US Vietnam War, yeah, this is
no,
separate.
this is very recently. It was part of the whole Khmer Rouge program that had happened. A lot of poets, young people, the entire young population, middle-aged population of Cambodia had been obliterated by the government. So only people were, and when I went to Cambodia, the only people I saw were young children or old people. Middle-aged people मेरे को दिखते ही नहीं थे because they were obliterated. There were landmines still live outside this village in the forest because this country was at war up till the 90s. So near this village, all those Khmer Rouge officials who are yet to be tried, वो वहाँ पर hang out करते थे. तो इस village में मेरे को जाके exploration करना था इस temple का. Temple was, if you saw Lara Croft, and there was this temple with these face towers, these faces coming out of the minars or the temple pinnacles. This was one of those similar temples with the face towers, and it was completely fallen over. So I had to jump over rocks and conduct this study, and I was the only foreign person. Nobody could speak a word of English or Hindi or anything. Long story cut short, end product था कि इस village में मेरे को एक Indian family मिल गई वहाँ पे वैसे.
Just immigrants?
Just immigrants, they were basically exporting watches and jewelry and stuff, and just had lived in that village for the past like 15 years or something.
So these tried Khmer you said? Khmer, these tried Khmer officials, they were just chilling, मतलब सब लोगों ने अपना खून कर रखा है, अपना चिल करके बैठे हुए हैं.
हाँ, बैठे हुए हैं वहाँ पर आराम से.
And you're just doing this to figure out like what is happening.
वहाँ पे बैठे हुए हैं. मेरे को आना था थाईलैंड से, मैं ड्राइव करके आई थी कंबोडिया में, तो मैंने क्रॉस किया था ओवरलैंड बॉर्डर. तो अब मेरे को जाना था इस छोटे गाँव में जो करीब 6 घंटे दूर था. सो आई हैड टू टेक वन शेयर कैब फ्रॉम वन प्लेस एंड देन टेक अनदर शेयर कैब एंड देन किसी को पकड़ना था, छोटे बच्चे को पकड़ना था कि मेरे को बाइक पे छोड़ के आए इस गाँव में. Peak monsoon time. So my rule was very simple that either take a share cab which has a woman in it or a person with a uniform in it. ये मेरा हमेशा travel का rule होता है. Whenever you want to ask for direction also, just find a person in some uniform. It could be anything. It could be a janitor's uniform for all I care. But ask that man. So I took the share cab. I saw a pregnant woman, so I was like, wow, safe. I'll go into this share cab. And then finally got caught on the mud paths on the rain while on the bike of a young kid who I just said, I'll give you $10. You take me to this village. And I had the native writing of that in Khmer. It was written, Bante Chamar was the name of the village. So he took me there. Yeah. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, it was quite cool.
So Anica, like what got you to just start, leaving the life that most people live and going to these sites to do this? Like, there is not a linear path to it. ऐसा तो नहीं होता ना कोई, there is some archaeology school or some digging school or even just the path that you've taken. It's so,
I have a funny answer and then I have a real long emotional answer. The funny answer is कि I loved Brendan Fraser and I wanted to be his librarian. But the real answer is actually I went to LSR. I did history honors over there, and then right after history honors, I took a gap year. And my godmother worked in fashion and sports marketing.
Your godmother?
My godmother. My mom's best friend from college. My mom was also a DU girl. Okay. She went to IP college, and her best friend from there was my godmother, Nidhi Chaudhary. Shout out, Nidhi auntie. She worked at this very senior position in this very cool company called IMG, which did Lakme Fashion Week, IPL, Chennai Open, so fashion and sports marketing. She got me an internship there right after college because I wanted to try out events.
I saw you did some marketing for them on your LinkedIn.
Yeah. So as soon as I got hired, Lakme Fashion Week was right around the corner, and I went and started working on that project. And I had a fantastic time. I was immediately promoted. I lived in Bandra. I worked for the Fashion Week.
You lived in Bandra?
I lived in Bandra.
I love Bandra.
Yeah,
I lived there for a
Palinaka,
while.
bro.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I lived in 25th Road. But I used to go to Palinaka all the time.
I used to be in Soul Fry like every evening.
Soul Fry was great.
Soul Fry was awesome. So so honestly, what the point that I'm trying to make is I had an awesome job. Okay, I love fashion. I love sports. I was a sports person in my school. DPS Roni, shout out. So I was a sports person there. But the fact that really, and I was on the field also. Like I was beside a tennis court, I was beside a cricket pitch, or I was next to the runway, right? Really cool places. But it really bothered me most of the time that I was in this corporate building, air conditioned. Like there were things about it that were rather visceral that used to bother me a lot. And I said, no, I was still into that whole history zone. I was still into like, I want to be closer to the earth kind of thing. I don't want to do this whole, fashion. And yet this is part of life. Yeah, you have these refined parts of your life, but I don't want to work in that. So I want to be a little bit closer to the earth. So I read a bunch of books, and obviously City of Jinns was quite great because
City of Jinns, by William Dalrymple.
Yeah.
That book changed my life because उससे पहले मैंने दिल्ली को ऐसे ignore करता था.
Exactly, it made everyone fall in love with Delhi, right? Yeah. And that's where I think I first time started becoming an explorer. Like I literally took that book and went to those neighborhoods. I used to force my mother. I was like, no, it's raining. He mentioned that in the rain in Chandni Chowk, this was happening. So let's go and like redo that.
Wow.
Right? So me, my mom and dad, my sister, all four of us are like very adventure loving people. Like we're road tripping, dog loving, like super. So all these things, like everyone's like, okay, yeah, let's do it,
Yeah.
So fortunately, I got that experience and I loved it. I applied to School of Oriental and African Studies in London for art history and archaeology. I actually initially wanted to study marine archaeology. But
just like Atlantis ढूंढना.
हाँ, मेरे को मैं swimming, I love swimming. ठीक है, तो फिर मेरे को in the water, right? And also I'm Cancerian, so it suits me. My astrologer approves it. So
which one, Western or Vedic?
I don't know. There are like 10 astrologers I've got on speed dial, but my mom's Bihari, so I don't know. I don't need to.
Okay.
I don't need to.
Have a conversation about astrology after the podcast. Yeah.
I trust it.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, so I went to do marine archaeology, but Jeffrey King, who was the professor at the time, had suddenly gone on sabbatical. Later, I found out 5 years later that he had become an alcoholic and gone to rehab. But that's why I am not a marine archaeologist. That's why I'm an explorer right now. Yeah.
That's crazy though. It just makes me think कि फिर भी there must be times when you're like, say, I don't know, like in a part of India you won't normally go to. जैसे लोग अगर metropolitan शहरों में पैदा होते हैं and they typically take a desk job और आजकल we do most things online. Speaking in broad brushstrokes right now, your typical like way of traveling across India or like just the places you visit tend to be your hometown, major metropolises जहाँ पे मामा मामी बुआ वगैरह रहते हैं, like a destination wedding every now and then, but it's pretty limited. I was going through your Instagram all the way down and I saw some pictures from like very मतलब आसपास सिर्फ जंगल ही जंगल है कुछ नहीं और like large meadows. When you're traveling to like the super hinterlands of India, do you have a team of people with you? जिनके साथ तुम do you consult and say कि यार ये in this valley के time का लग रहा है, ये हरप्पा के time का लग रहा है, like stuff like that. Yeah,
most certainly. When I go for like work-related trips to these hinterlands, like when I went to Dholavira,
which is where?
Dholavira is in Gujarat. It's a really cool place, and imagine why people would set up a civilization or a city there, because Dholavira is right in the center of Rann of Kutch, which is a salt water or a salt desert, right? And it's on a tapu. What is it called?
Island.
A plateau, an island. An island. I've spent too much time around Indian archaeologists. That's why I've forgotten the word for island. I'm calling it tapu. वो tapu के ऊपर एक citadel बना हुआ है, and it's a huge city. Okay,
right.
And Indus Valley civilization, like 2500 BC, we are talking about, right?
So it's a city on an island in the middle of a Kutch. Kutch has a water body. उसके अंदर island है.
Water body bhi nahi, it is a salt body. So you cannot grow any fruits and vegetables. How do you get your nutrition in that place? It is in the middle of nowhere. No life can exist there, essentially. And a city has been built there. So I went there with my team from America, Global Explorer team, Chase Childs and Rebecca Dobronsky, and me and my colleague from Tata Trust, Anuj Gangwal, and an amazing local guide who is a proper archaeologist, super local guy, and an archaeologist from Archaeological Survey of India. And we had to basically, जो excavate हो चुका है वो UNESCO World Heritage Site भी बन चुका है, but उसके आगे भी बहुत कुछ है. तो कहाँ से शुरू करें was the mission of our visit there. We stayed there for 4-5 days. We went to the entire place. We analyzed satellite imagery. We even dug a pit and saw the sediment nature कि पानी कहाँ से आता था. ये पानी उनका filtration system was very amazing. तो वो salt water कैसे खींचते थे, salt कैसे उससे निकालते थे और use करते थे. That was what we were observing.
Is it desalinization?
Correct.
That's what they do in the UAE.
Correct. So they were doing that in 2500 BC in Dholavira and Harappa. So in Indus Valley Civilization site, Harappan site. So that was our mission. So that was when we had gone to, and Pakistan border was right there. You know, so it was a very cool exploration trip. But a lot of exploration trip that I have taken myself, anyone who is in the field of archaeology and art history and all, when you travel, no matter what the country, what the state, or what, you somehow have to anchor it around a site or around a museum or whatever. Kuch log, they anchor their trips around food, they anchor their trips around shopping.
Right.
But an archaeologist never anchor their trips around any of those things. So I actually went ahead, when I came back from my studies abroad, I came back to India, and one of the first things which was a mission for me is I want to do a road trip around this country.
Yeah.
And I want to hit all the things that I have read in all the universities, and I need to just see it once and for all because I'm sick of waiting to make that happen. So Christmas Day, 25 days, 23 locations. I covered 9,000 kilometers of this country in the same car that I've driven to you in today. And that was awesome. That's where I went to the most far out places.
Hold up on that. 11th grade mein, I had this, I read On the Road by Jack Kerouac, jo America mein, he just does a 2-year road trip, right?
Yeah.
And I pledged, मेरे Instagram पे लिखा हुआ है in my caption that मैं भी ना एक दिन 28 के 28 ना 29, I'll travel all the states. Went abroad, forgot about it. But that craving still remains. How did you do 25 states, 23 states in 25 days? Like,
zero planning. That's the trick. Zero planning. I took off on Christmas Day and I said, okay, for me, mission, like I come from a family of road trips, right?
Right.
Like my mom and dad, my dad was in the army, so road trips हमारे खून में है. तो मेरे को पता है कि 8 घंटे से ज़्यादा मेरे को ड्राइव नहीं करना दिन में.
हाँ.
You know, 8 घंटे की Google Map की location to destination.
And you had Google Maps back then?
Yeah. This is in 2017 or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is like recently. Yeah, so Google Maps tha, and 8 घंटे से ज़्यादा नहीं. And then literally when you get to it, actually this trip was completely Google mapped, right? When you get close to it, you just search for lodges or hotels and then you just call them. I had a budget. Like I was a university professor at that. Professor is wrong terminology, but in India it's used very liberally. But I used to teach in a university at that time.
You were an educator.
I was an academic. But
not an armchair academic.
No,
because you were traveling.
This was my winter vacation. After I had checked I had corrected so many papers. That is the worst time to be an educator, actually.
In the
winter? When you have to check papers. That is the worst thing. But I had my budget was, I will not spend over 500 or maximum 1,000 on a night spend. Because मेरे को सिर्फ सोना है. So I don't need anything very fancy. I used to try to look for government housing and all of that.
Right.
So keep it really thing, and I didn't end up spending much money at all. Obviously, I interspersed this trip with some hotel stays क्योंकि laundry करनी है, एक normal shower लेना है, But full adventure style, it was. I mean, I think I have this entire trip on a GoPro footage because I put a dash cam. Yeah.
You should sell the rights to some fancy company.
I know. There's some gold in there, dude. We saw some real beauty. India's gorgeous.
So it was you and someone else.
Yeah, me and my partner at the time.
Acha.
Yeah.
So you traveled across the country.
Yeah.
And did you go to every single state? Like how many states?
So my route was Delhi to Khajuraho, Khajuraho to Sanchi, Sanchi to Nagpur, Nagpur to Hyderabad, Hyderabad to Visakhapatnam, Visakhapatnam to Chennai, Chennai to Mahabalipuram, Pondicherry, Rameshwaram, Dhanushkodi, Munnar, Kunnur, Coorg, Bangalore, Kasargod, Hampi, Pune, Bombay, Ahmedabad, Jodhpur, Delhi.
My God, that's crazy.
It was pretty cool.
So, but यहाँ पे वो वाला part रह गया. Eastern, you didn't cover Eastern India then.
No, then abhi in Jan I went to Odisha and I did the full state survey over there as part of work, and that was
A
pretty
state
cool.
survey? How do you do
State
that?
State survey is like all the centrally protected monuments and monuments of interest to me for the purpose of the research that I was doing. I had to just go and visit them. So process is very simple. Just go there, book an Innova with a driver that you can take down should he trouble you, because I am woman. So I took like a young boy who looked like अगर कुछ problem हो गया वो अपने आप लग जाएगा. So and I used to tip him well. So and that's it. And always the trick to these state surveys is go to the farthest site first.
Okay.
जो सबसे दूर वाली साइट है ना उसमें सबसे पहले जाओ and then work your way back to the main city airport.
So ASI sanctions this, Archaeological Survey of India.
Yeah.
They hit you up. They're like, and do you work with them full time?
No, I do not work with them. Actually, I work with Tara Trust, but I sit out of the ASI office because I service the requirement of the ASI over there.
Okay.
But thankfully, thanks to the good folks and good officers and good archaeologists at ASI, I get involved in a lot of different projects and schemes of theirs. Some things that are soft power related, some things that are I'm on this committee that is working on designing the gift shops outside each archaeological site, and we're getting fucking nerdy with it. I'm sorry, and we're getting downright nerdy with it. And me and some 50-something archaeologists are sitting down reading the Encyclopedia of Indian Archaeology, and we're like, we are not going to make mugs and t-shirts. We are going to sell cool shit. And we're going to hit up IIT, who is going to produce this through their startup ecosystem and everything. So that's what I'm doing every day. Some of my people I talk to every day is not my mother, is two really cool people from IIT Kanpur. Yeah.
That's crazy. You obviously you're terrific with people. I saw you at IIF working those events
I like
out.
people.
Yeah, but iske andar, is it difficult to speak with people who don't speak the language? Because once you go outside the Hindi belt, and chalo, South maybe people can speak English, but like when you don't have that, do you use a translator to help you?
No, I lived, like I told you earlier, I lived in Cambodia in this small village where no one spoke a spot of English or Hindi or anything. Right. But I ended up, I think it's a translator is always useful when you need technical details on really deep material research. However, when you regularly travel and exploration, human to human communication is beyond words actually. So it can happen. And with the technology that we have, in Cambodia, I used to communicate with photographs. With photographs with the entire, it was community-based living. So when I had gone there, all the houses in Cambodia are on stilts because it's a super tropical country.
Right. So stilts, वो जो डंडे होते हैं जो घर के नीचे लगाते हैं.
Tree house जैसे. वो उठा हुआ है. नीचे वो stilts पे वो hammocks hang करते हैं. And that was the home. It is a very poor country. Cambodia is super poor. Okay.
Yeah.
So hammocks was their living room, and ऊपर एक कमरा था जिसमें family रहती थी. But because I was staying there and paying them money to stay there, they were sleeping on the hammocks. I was staying up, so I used to feel really strange. But this entire family, I stayed with them for like a week and a half in Cambodia, and they fed me. We laughed, we joked, but we never spoke to each other ever. So communication can happen, And
so did you have photos of like ki khana? Sona, like did you literally have photos of that?
No, that you can speak from your body language, like I'm going to sleep and all of that,
Okay.
But so I had a problem because Cambodia local cuisine has frogs.
Yeah.
तो वो मैं नहीं खा सकती.
That's
I have
crazy.
a deep fear of amphibians and reptiles, and let alone going close to it. Eating it is तो दूर की बात है. So I literally said, "What is this? Is this in this?"
Yeah.
So they said no, and I said, "Please, no, this, no." Like so, you communicate.
I should make you meet Abhirup Kadam. He's this kid who rescues snakes in Mumbai.
No.
When he came to my podcast, he brought a snake with him.
No. Thanks. No, thank you.
But about these frogs, so. Do they cook them? Do they eat them raw?
They eat them like chicken, man.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's crazy. But how do they get the poison out?
I don't know. I don't think all frogs are poisonous. My dad was in commando training, and they were taught there how to take out the poison out of snakes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like it's apparently ऐसा होता है कि you just hold the fang open.
I haven't a clue.
ठीक है, let's not discuss reptiles.
Yeah.
Just a recurring theme in these podcasts. Someone always brings up reptiles. It's me only क्योंकि मैं ही चला रहा हूँ. But okay. What's the longest time that you've been on the road? Like, ऐसा हो जाता है ना, like the longest time I've been alone by myself is a 10-day Vipassana meditation. Like I haven't been like out in the Amazonian jungle 2-3 mahine ke liye, din ke liye. What's the longest time like you?
Oh, wow. Yeah, this happened in Japan. So I lived in Japan for 2 years because I was doing research there at Kyoto University and Kyoto University of Education. When my dissertation time came, so when I went to Japan, I had a fantastic time. Those were my golden years. I partied hard. But I also, on the other hand, was trying this whole monkish situation where I had abandoned like high-tech phones and I'd gotten a simple flip phone.
Yeah.
You know,
and you were partying with that, just simple walk into places.
Yeah. And I had at some point even given up my phone because I was just like, I'm getting too distracted with this. I just had given up my phone. I was equally social. Like I used to meet people, go out, and plans were made. But in Japan, people follow time, just unlike me today, who came very late. But I had a serious emergency call. But so I could socialize, but I did not have that phone. So then, when I came towards dissertation writing time, I was applying to Oxford also that time. So while
which you got into,
which I did get into, fortunately, thank you. I was applying there, and I was finishing my dissertation, and I wanted to finish my dissertation a month earlier than what I had to because I wanted to use the last month in Japan ki full fun, right? So I had gone into this recluse where I had left I was living with a really fun bunch of people, and I'd come into a single person's studio, which was basically my apartment. My entire apartment was as big as this room, a little bit smaller actually, but it had everything, including a bathroom and everything, and it was on the side of a hill. So it was quite monkish. It was the neighborhood where David Bowie used to hang out actually when he used to go to Kyoto.
He would go to Kyoto?
Yeah. He used to go to Japan a lot. And Kyoto, he used to he used to go partying around in Kyoto.
For inspiration. I know ki Queen, to branch out to the Japanese market, they made a song called Tio Toriate, which is like half Japanese, half English. Because they had a huge fan base in Japan. And Bowie and
Bowie had a huge
Freddie
fan.
were contemporaries, that's why.
Yeah. Japan has a significant place in that time period in all these musicians.
So what was it like living in Kyoto? Because मैं तो कभी नहीं गया हूँ. Like I've been to most Western countries. Europe हो गया, USA हो गया. Not Canada, not Mexico. So Latin America is left. A lot of Africa is left. Of course, when you start traveling abroad, the first thing you do is go to Asia, toward the right of India, right?
Yeah.
वो सब देखते हो.
Easily accessible.
But people stop at Thailand, or people stop at like maybe Vietnam or Koh Samui, Bali, these digital nomad locations.
Correct.
So what was Kyoto like?
It was quite a surprise. When I was in Cambodia, actually, for that fellowship, so I used to work for a gallery, Vadera Art Gallery, and I'd applied for this scholarship in Japan to the Japanese embassy. Right. Japan takes a long time. So I'd applied sometime in Jan, and here I'm sitting in September in Cambodia, and I heard from my mom that I got the scholarship to go to Japan to be this government researcher for whatever I had to do over there.
Right.
And I was like, wow, fantastic. And then I came back to Delhi, and I remember those were the days that Kia was our main highlight of our Friday evenings.
Vasant Kunj mein na?
Vasant Kunj Promenade, yeah.
That place is still relevant. I don't know how.
It's great, man. Like, I want to do a throwback party there. Anyway, so I went to Kia and I met my girls there and most of my friends there. Everyone used to be there at the same time. And I said, guys, I have some news, I'm moving to Japan. Everyone's like, Japan? And that time it was like wo craze India mein bhi nahi chada tha, wo Japanese food वगैरह का उस time, So I was like, yeah, I just got like this great scholarship to go there and I'll be in Kyoto and everything is sorted out and I think I'm leaving in like 2 weeks. And they were like, what? And I just went. And I myself, I didn't know a spot of Japanese. I did not know much about Japanese culture, but I was very interested in the movement of Buddhism from India to reach Asia to find its many forms. I was, a student of art history of that particular realm. I like ancient and medieval sacred art. And that's my specialty. So I was looking at that and Japan was the ultimate place to be, And Kyoto was the perfect place to be because it was the imperial capital. It was the ancient capital.
The imperial capital as in like jo jaise Constantinople, that name that I cannot pronounce now. That, but actually Turkey ka capital kuch aur hai.
Kyoto is very much like Delhi.
Yeah.
It has always been an important part. It has been rebuilt multiple times. Many empires have come and set seat over here and then gone away. And it still has that place. Not unfortunately, but circumstantially for Kyoto, the capital has shifted to Tokyo. But Kyoto...
They're anagrams. I just realized that.
Yeah.
So are they sister cities in any capacity? कुछ ऐसा है या
No,
नहीं?
they're just capital cities. One is the former capital and one is the current capital, So, and Kyoto being such an imperial city with so many sites, important temple sites, etc. over there, it cannot be rebuilt like a new city again, right? Because it is historically important.
Right.
So that's why shifting the capital to Tokyo makes more sense. But Kyoto was a perfect place to study because, and you were asking how was Kyoto? I would say it was the most aesthetically heightened experience of my life. Nothing can be compared to it whatsoever. The people, the Japanese people, my interaction with them, and I went deep into the whole cultural thing. I used to eat Japanese food. I learned how to speak in Japanese, which was part of the program. And I worked in a Japanese cafe. I did everything properly. I wanted to get to know, and I couldn't stop myself from getting to know as well because you're surrounded by, it's super Japan, it's like super Japanese when you're in Japan.
Right.
But there's such an interesting group of Asian people. There are so many similarities between India and Japan because of your Asianness. There is something to it. And that's what I discovered over there. And then I just kept exploring that more and more. And I just feel that as humans, they are onto something quite amazing. I just found living there so amazing. But historically, how they look at history, how they look at food, how they look at their basic amenities, as opposed to the metaphysical, everything is super fascinating. They are quite meta.
Like, what do you mean? For example, हमारे में parallels क्या हैं? Is it the nodding after everything? Is it, because I don't know any Japanese people, even though I live in the US.
No, it's in the way the human behavior that is far more subtle than the gross aspect of it is
Right.
there. Like an honor system does exist over there.
That's true.
Right? The family unit by default is faltering in Japan because it's a declining population. But the honor system has dominated so much that it is having its repercussions on the family unit almost.
Right.
जो
वो होता है ना कि पिता और माता का नाम खराब नहीं करना, that kind of honor system, right?
Correct. और एक और honor system, जैसे मैं यूनिवर्सिटी में थी, right? In Kyoto University, which is one of the top universities of Japan and one of the top universities, it's an Ivy League of the world, right?
Right.
तो वहाँ पर क्या होता था कि स्टूडेंट्स जो अंडरग्रेड खत्म करते थे ना, they cannot take the concept of gap year over there. Because as soon as you take it, you are seen as a societal outcast.
Right.
तो फिर तो बड़ी कंपनियों में जब सैलरी मैन वाली जॉब आएगी वो तुम्हारे पास, बिकॉज दे विल ऑलवेज शक यू ऑन दैट, सो दैट टू मेंटेन योर ऑनर इन दैट वे एज अ सिविल person is really followed by the person at an individual level is what I noticed. There were many times like theft is not there. Crime is so organized with the whole Yakuza system.
Yes.
That
Love the Yakuza.
Yeah, dude. I became friends with one guy.
Yeah.
His job was the cutest. They have these girl bars in Japan where it's like, they're different kinds. Like sometimes you pay a cover charge. You're such a lonely person. Loneliness is a problem in Japan. So you go to a bar just to have a chat with a girl, And then sometimes...
Yeah. I've been watching Midnight Diner on Netflix.
Yeah.
Very good show.
Oh my God. That is Kyoto vibe, by the way. The kind of architecture and the kind of smallness of places and the streets and all.
That's my only in into it. मैं कल ही देख रहा था. I was watching 2 episodes. Yeah.
Yeah. So really cool. So the Yakuza guy's job was to take these girls from the girls' bar and pick them up and drop them home. I was like, you're so sweet, man. He's like, yeah. He's like, can you teach me English? I was like, I can try.
That's crazy. With this honor system, I read somewhere a couple of years ago कि ये जो 4-hour work week भी आया था Tim Ferriss का, it also arised. It also came from his time in Japan where he saw कि, if you're seen working for long hours, not actually working, if you're seen working for long hours, especially cubicle वाली jobs के अंदर, and you sleep, that's encouraged. It's a sign of saying तुम कितनी मेहनत कर रहे हो, so you're sleeping on the desk.
Yeah. I completely agree on that. And they really honor sleep in Japan. By the way, you are not allowed to eat or talk on the phone in trains in Japan. Seats are heated in Japanese trains. First of all, Japanese trains are amazing. I love them so much. They're not like plush. They are comfortable, cozy places, right?
Right.
So, and you're not allowed to talk. You're not allowed to be on your phone and be doing on your phones because...
Not allowed.
Not allowed.
By law.
Not by... I don't know by law actually.
Social,
No, there is a person who comes and walks through the train every journey, and he literally opens the door, takes off his hat, puts it under his arm, does a bow, walks through. If anyone is doing something like that, he says, please stop, please kindly stop. Because a train is a place for people to nap.
Wow.
Yeah.
And commutes must be long.
Commutes can be long, but even though if they're short, Japanese are great at cat naps. They're just like, Ekdam se. My friend Yuya, I used to travel with him everywhere. He taught me the art of catnapping.
Yeah?
Yeah. He's like, dude, it's like a meditation. Even if you are not sleepy and you don't want to sleep, just do it. Like, conserve your energy, you know?
Yeah, I used to do that when I had exams. Spotify, they have those 5-minute nap, 10-minute nap, 15-minute nap that put you
Correct.
into like 3/4 of a sleep. Tum deep sleep nahi hoti. You can still sort of feel things, but
Yeah.
it just recharges you.
Correct.
In Midnight Diner yesterday, there was a woman who came in one of the episodes. She would just sit back and sleep jab tak uska khana nahi aata. Then everyone would look at her.
Yeah.
All the guys would go to this strip club to talk to the jo dancer hai.
Yeah.
So very interesting that they do that, because there is another thing that it came from Ikigai or somewhere. This concept of ganbaru, the word ganbaru, which means toiling endlessly, working pretty hard at one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So did you see like distraction was a problem in Japan? Did you feel like your energy was maybe all over the place for that place, or like?
No, I think because I was in Kyoto. So I used to get very uncomfortable when I used to be in Tokyo, because I used to feel quite बहुत ज़्यादा कुछ हो रहा है. Kyoto is like a big city with a small town vibe, you know, and it's cushioned on 3 sides by hills, and it is pierced right through the center by a river, which is fairly shallow. You can walk through it, so it's very idyllic. It's very idyllic, and watching geishas walk by at the clock of the hour is very common in certain neighborhoods.
Geishas are the with the whiter faces, the sex workers in Japan?
No, they are not the sex workers. You can call them courtesans, but they are extremely like intellectual courtesans and entertainers, essentially. But definitely prostitution was not a dominant part of the geisha culture. And prostitution is not a very big part of Japanese culture as well, because they're quite self-serving in that way. They make the video.
I've seen the Japanese director or the naked director on Netflix. It's like they do have a loneliness problem. I even remember when the Times of India would come to our school, they had ads for these pillows that had like either a person doing a hug, so you could be hugged by this pillow to mimic an actual hug.
Cuddle cafes. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Does that exist?
Cuddle cafes, cat cafes, there are all kinds of... So this is why I love the bloody Japanese, okay?
Yeah.
They understand human tendencies and they accept them, whether they are kinky or they are super civil.
Right.
Okay? So there's a concept called love hotels in Japan, right? I think I spoke about this on my podcast with Getty. Don't run into class, guys. Listen to it.
It's a pretty good podcast, yeah.
Thank you. But they have this concept called love hotels over there. Now, Japanese homes are basically made out of paper and wood. If you are husband, wife, and you have 3 children and grandma in the house...
Because of their propensity for earthquakes, yeah.
And you have grandma in the house, how do you have sex as a couple, right?
Yeah.
You are husband, wife. तुमने बच्चे कर लिए, तुम्हें वो करना है. कैसे करोगे?
Yeah.
You go to a love hotel. Now, this hotel is amazing. You don't have any human contact whatsoever. Why? Because it's a married couple. You have to protect their honor, right? So you go to a vending machine. And you see the pictures of the room and you select the room. And suddenly when you select the room and you make your payment, a light on the floor comes up. That LED light leads you to your room. You go to your room is swank as shit. You know, it's got a jacuzzi, it's got a dumbwaiter. So if you want food, you punch it into the iPad and then it comes in through a tray, through the dumbwaiter in the room. So it's like pretty dope, right? But so it's like understanding human tendencies. कि husband wife को भी करना है. House are made of paper. ये हमारा infrastructure ऐसा है. We accept it. So let's come up with this concept. Things like Girls Cafe. Girls Cafe is like you pay a cover charge and you just go and talk to someone. And she'll get you a drink. She'll ask you how your day was,
Just
nothing
be
else.
nice.
Yeah, just be nice. Just have a good conversation for a couple of hours and then go away, In capsule hotels is the same concept as well. Salary men who work so hard, they don't have enough time to go home in the suburbs. So they just check into the capsule hotel. Capsule hotel has 2 channels. One is news and one is porn. It's like, dude, we got you,
Fuck. That's crazy.
It's cool, man. It's cool.
Fuck. I've seen these things on the internet, but I've never had someone explain it to me like that. What is it like just living there?
But it's also, let me just give you another contrast. It's also amazing living there because Japan went through Kyoto Protocol, where they basically fixed their entire country environmentally. All right? They understood कि हमारा इतना छोटा सा land है. ठीक है ना हम ठीक कर सकते हैं. So if you go to any forest, like in Kyoto, I used to go to forest, right? And I'm sitting in the middle of the forest after having hiked a certain distance. And then I'll look at the trees and then I'll notice all these trees are in a line. everything has been replanted, forests have been regrown, rivers have been rebanked because of Kyoto Protocol for a better environmental sustainability. So sometimes, like, I went to a music festival and I noticed that these guys are so cool. They love nature so much that I'm looking at a hill in front of me, right? And the music festival is going on, and then suddenly I noticed one hill is light green, one hill is dark green, one hill is light green, one hill is dark green. And I was like, wow, it's like the foliage is awesome over here, you know, and obviously you have cherry blossoms and all of that, but they really take care of their own in that country. And so it's a cool place.
Wow, I'm just thinking, मेरा मन कर रहा है to just, you know, at some point I want to take this podcast on the road because I don't want to conduct it from the same place. It just binds you to a place, and I'm just thinking कि मैं ऐसा कुछ करना चाहता हूँ, but like, but you were a student back then, right? You were not working archaeologically at all. You were just.
But my research was primarily looking at the movement of Ajanta style paintings along the Buddhist routes.
Not the ones in Mumbai.
Aurangabad, Ajanta paintings, Ajanta caves है ना हमारे, उसके अंदर paintings है, which are the best paintings, representation of paintings in India, essentially the earliest, best, most elevated representation of paintings,
right.
And they truly are. But that's another conversation. But they had been evidence of mimicking that same painting had been found in China, in Sri Lanka, in Korea, and then finally in Japan. So I wanted to get to the bottom of why, how, who, when.
Were you successful?
Yeah.
Who was it? किसने करी थी?
Different people did it for different reasons, but the main overarching common reason why these countries did it is that Buddhism was invited into most of these Southeast Asian and East Asian countries as something that symbolized power and state building. So when it came to Japan...
Sorry, just to cut you off. Power and state building, this is contrary to the opinions of what we know about Gautama Buddha, or it was all about asceticism.
There is pretty much everything in Buddhism that is very contrary to what Gautam Buddha or Siddhartha said, because what Siddhartha said, that is followed in one sect called the Theravada sect, which used to also be called the Hinayana or the lesser vehicle. But the current terminology that is followed is Theravada. Sri Lanka follows it, parts of India follow it, but most others, Buddhism, like any religion in the world, has evolved, as is Islam,
right.
Shia, Sunni, you know, Catholicism, Anglicanism, Christianity, right? So Buddhism also has lesser vehicle Hinayana Theravada, which is the same thing. Then it has Mahayana, which evolved a little bit more, where meditative techniques and visualization and state building came about. And then Vajrayana, which is basically slightly esoteric in nature, tantric in nature, but the ultimate goal is that ultimate goal है हमें salvation चाहिए. तो यहाँ पर महायाना और थेरावाडा में multiple lifetimes में कर रहे हैं हम, you know, constant birth and death हो रहा है और हम वैसे कर रहे हैं. But in Vajrayana you can do it in one lifetime. It's like a fast track method to, that is a secret tradition that you have to be initiated to learn these things.
Okay, so what Wikipedia says, there's 3 acts and all of that. You cannot learn it. It's just you have to be कोई master तुम्हें आके देगा.
Yeah. So in all religion, you have to understand is that when you are a follower of a religion, you can be a follower in different capacities.
Right.
And one of them is practitioner. And the practitioner, then it is a full-time thing, right? You can be a common person who has a job and everything, but the rituals somehow for your chosen path may be so laborious that you have to, at some point, you might have to become a full-time practitioner and anyways rise above from the world that you've created around you. So, and to become a practitioner, you have to find a person who can initiate you into that realm. There are rituals to get initiated, purified, prepared. There are acts that you have to do. You have to meditate 4 times a day in a particular kind of a place. You have to do visualization techniques. The God comes and inhabits you. You know, you become...
God? There's a deity?
There is a deity. There are spirits all around us, man.
नहीं मतलब not in that Scooby-Doo spooky sense, in the sense कि do Buddhists perceive the fact, at least Vajrayana Buddhists?
So visualization is when you visualize a particular celestial form. Whether you want to call it a god, whether you want to call it a deity, whether you want to call it an image of an ethic or an emotion. But there is an anthropomorphic form there that you will visualize. And then you will visualize that form to become you, so that you embody the powers that form has.
Yes.
Right? And then you activate those powers for whatever purpose that you need to activate those powers. This could be protectionist, they could be to remove fear, this could be to heal someone, this could be for creating rain, this could be for any of those purposes.
And this is not stuff you can YouTube, right?
There is stuff that can give you information on this on YouTube, but how it is done and all, these are all extremely private, extremely intellectual, academic rituals that happen. And you can go to a temple and check them out. Ask your Pandit, bro.
No, because I've done Vipassana, but that was also initiation.
That is a micro technique within a larger generalized philosophy.
That's what I was saying. Right. It's also like...
But Vipassana, and it's used for a practitioner who will use it in a larger meditative thing, which is towards a goal of salvation. You're doing Vipassana because you want to calm your mind.
Right.
This guy is doing Vipassana at certain times, and it is timed to certain things because he wants to attain salvation and leave this body.
Yeah, it's like using headspace versus like using headspace for life.
Sure.
Anyway, so I read something that you wrote for The Citizen a couple of years ago. And I was surprised because मैं जब भी लेह लद्दाख गया, I've seen that India का जो monastery circuit है, that's around there. You can go online and you find that monasteries have elaborate websites and you can go stay in those monasteries and take part in rituals whatever way you want, etc., etc., etc. But then I read something that said that Assam and Sikkim and parts of the Northeast also have a very vibrant Buddhist culture that I don't think gets enough spotlight.
The Northeast in general, I think, does not get enough spotlight. Northeast still remains to be, unfortunately, this exoticized Indian other,
Right.
But there is a lot of fantastic stuff that is going on there. And I'm also desperate to read scholars who come from there who can kind of explain those things to me. But the kind of Buddhism that does exist in Sikkim and Assam is of the Mahayana kind, where the monastery system was. So the Buddha never preached to have a monastery. The Buddha always said that you have to be a traveler throughout your life. And during the rainy season, you must gather amongst your peers and revise the ethics of being a Buddhist so that you can continue your path towards salvation and moksha and enlightenment. So earlier it should be enlightened. And once you get enlightened, that's the first step, right? You get this ultimate knowledge, that this opening that no matter if a new situation is thrown at you, your ethics will guide you through it smoothly. That is what enlightenment means. And when you get it, there is like this golden people with an aura generally, have a certain amount of enlightenment, awakening that has happened.
Right.
So once you're enlightened, then you can choose to either leave your body and die, or you can stay in this world and preach. That is the difference between a Buddha and a Bodhisattva, right? Bodhisattva is that person who chooses to stay in this world and constantly continue the education of what they have learned amongst their people. So, I don't know how we got here.
That's all podcasts. But does the Buddhist community at all ever reach out to you asking for academic dissemination or no?
Not me. I am a nobody. The Buddhist community has obviously reached out to professors and great scholars who I've had the great fortune of studying with. I'd like to mention two here. One in India is Professor Madhu Khanna. I'm extremely, extremely fond of her because she also studied at Oxford from the same scholar that I studied from. She was one of his earlier batches of students and I was his last. Like after it, he retired. So we kind of studied the same texts and we focused on the same streams of scholarship where Indology was concerned. Indology is basically the study of the history of India, but through primary texts. You don't read somebody else's version of it. You read the Sanskrit, you read the Pali, you read the Prakrit.
Can you read Sanskrit?
Yeah. I'm trained in that. I have an MPhil in that. So,
wow. That would never come across from our interaction at all.
Yeah, I'm full of surprises, man.
So, like, what would you say when you were coming here? Aham gachami?
Aham agami.
Aham agami? Yeah. Not gachami? Gachami is going.
Gachami is going, yeah.
Okay. I failed in Sanskrit.
Yeah. Actually, I did too in school. And the kind of Sanskrit that I learned is not the one that you can speak or whatever, because I focused on esoteric sacred art, right? So tantric sacred art, and I was actually translating for my MPhil a meditation manual that was written in Vikramashila University in the 11th century. And it's a Buddhist meditation manual, and it is quite interesting because it has techniques that are so how do you say, sensational, that current conservative religious people would be extremely scandalized by.
Well, are they sexual?
Extremely. Sexual, cannibalistic.
Cannibalistic
very
as well.
strange. Yeah.
That's interesting. I never thought that, you could just link those two worlds together, Buddhism and cannibalism, because
But cannibalism, that has a range,
Okay.
Certain things are like borderline.
just bite an ear, don't eat the entire person.
Yeah. It's to consume impure substances. So when you consume impure substances, the parts of your body can be also part of it.
That's crazy.
It's like a vaccination, right? Like
Huh.
you take a little bit of COVID ka thing in you so that you are immune to COVID and your body learns how to fight for it. And that's how and that's the quick route to, going beyond your body. It's like you dabble in impurities that the impurities can't harm you anymore.
It's like, हाँ वो तो वो विश कन्या होती थी जैसे, और like
जैसे अघोर हमेशा क्रिमेशन ग्राउंड पे क्यों मिलते हैं?
हाँ.
Kyun? Why do they put human ashes? That's the most impure thing. But because they do, they transcend the limited capacity of their bodies.
Yeah, usually we follow a pretty pure path, right? कि हम elimination diets कर लेंगे या हम कुछ और ऐसी चीज़ कर लेंगे, but never do we actually deal with the poison. जैसे वो शिवा का वो अवतार है that he drank the poison.
Correct. Yeah. No, we do eat the poison when we eat our Indian Chinese food. MSG, bro. That's why we are so strong. That's why we're the creators of Delta. Fucking hell. That's so dark.
Let's talk about Space Explorer, because I think
Global Explorer.
Sorry guys, Global Explorer. Oh, she's wrapping a T-shirt.
Yeah, of
You
course.
can't probably see it from the camera, but you stand up afterward.
Yeah.
हाँ. पर Global Explorer का scene ऐसा है कि I was surprised. अभी तक जब भी कोई मेरे से अपनी trip share करता है, they do an Uber trip, right? Follow my trip. And the Uber app opens up. You can see the UI UX of the app. You can see ये इंसान travel कर रहा है, अभी यहाँ पहुँचा है. That's the driver. Yada. You sent me a Google map that it said Anica is driving. Showed me your battery levels. Showed me estimated time of arrival.
Yeah.
No one has ever sent me that. या तो अभी कोई नया update आया है?
Really? That's what I'm discovering. Even I was talking to someone recently and I said, share your trip progress with me.
Yeah.
And they were doing it in a weird way on WhatsApp. And I was like, just use Google Maps. It's the most efficient. Like it gives you all the information. And they're like, oh, I don't know how to do it on Google Maps. It's like,
That's
really?
what I'm saying.
Dude, can I show you one thing? This is so a sign of an archaeologist. This is my Google Maps. Okay, I have a habit. Obviously, it's on satellite view.
Wow. Yeah.
But when do you see all these
Can you
stars?
just screenshot that so that we can, display it later on?
So do you see all these stars?
Yeah.
These stars are all points that I have saved on my map.
For
whatever purpose. For me, I'm a compulsive Google pinner because for me, if I go, so this is India, right? This is around the world, right? And then when I was...
Oh my God, ये points पूरे दुनिया में है.
पूरी दुनिया में, और ये देखो अमेरिका में, क्योंकि मैं वहाँ पर रही थी. तो जब मैं न्यूयॉर्क में थी, मेरे को इतना एंग्जाइटी हुआ था कि मैंने anything interesting, any place, see this is New York. Any place that was interesting to me, whether it's a library, a bar, an art museum, whatever, I would pin it.
Yeah, New York is full of that.
Yeah, so what would happen is that now I have confidence in landing up in any neighborhood because I always have something to do.
This is a revelation.
Yeah.
मैं ये Google Maps, because people use it like...
Geography की topper, bro.
नहीं, this is... So I had no idea that you could share the trip, right? I'm going to start doing that because it's a lot more efficient, right? And that way you can just, instead of saying मैं 10 minute दूर हूँ and do the whole thing with it, you have to send a landmark and then the person says कि यार
And
अब
it's a
कहाँ जाना है?
2-click thing. You send me a Google pin, right, of this place.
Yeah.
I just clicked it and routed myself to it. When I'm routed, once I've started my trip, I just click one button to share my trip and I send it to you on WhatsApp. It's so simple.
Yeah, another thing that I've noticed about Google Maps lately is पहले ऐसा होता था, some addresses you couldn't find. For the first time, what I did today is I put my address in and it isn't intuitive. It doesn't come up in the first few searches. But when you put it in manually, like the house number and everything else, right? It actually takes you the right pin. और पहले ऐसा नहीं होता था. Like people would just use suggestions कि अरे यार वो आ नहीं रहा है.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like probably second nature
I
to you.
trust the machine learning on Google Maps.
But it also leads you to very bad places as well.
You know,
Bad
my
routes.
I would have to disagree only because I did my entire 9,000 kilometers on Google Maps and seldom
Bigger
that happened.
roads?
No, dude. I was on like Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, like thin ass roads, right? Like I was on them. I went to goddamn Dhanush Kodi, you know, and no, it did not happen. It did not happen.
I was trying to get to Olive in Mehrauli.
Oh, the only time. Okay.
See, beach mein, there's this very narrow, long stretch that comes.
Yeah.
Just jam my car into it.
Yeah.
जिससे coerce कर सकता था, जिससे coax कर सकता था, जिससे मैं compassion दे सकता था, दिया. Because it's like a billion scooters.
Yeah.
A billion small vehicles,
Just
hand
be
cars.
patient, yeah.
हाँ वही है, but some fool, they also just put the car right behind me. So the two of us were just going through, and like a fucking riot could break out, but I was just like, let's go with it. So then that's when I was like, yeah, I can't trust Google Maps. I'm the exact opposite, but now I've started to use my intuitive direction sense because it's so off otherwise. But that's pretty cool that you use that. Like, how does that translate to the work you do at...
ASI, Global Explorer.
Yes.
It's the same kind of work, man. Like when we use satellite imagery and we're exploring the landscape from a bird's eye view, then main thing is, first mark the places of interest. And that's called an area of interest, right? Okay. You mark that and then you get better imagery of that particular area and then analyze it on like your softwares.
So you take a screenshot of that area and then...
Why would you take a screenshot? Just pin it. So then you get a location pin of it. Yeah. That number means something. The latitude and longitude means something.
What technology do you use? Do you use Google Maps?
I use for my work.
Yes.
For my work, I use Erdas. I use high quality software. Erdas, Imagine, Snap, all of these things.
They're not available to the public?
You have to buy them as a license. Yeah.
Achha. What does it allow you to do that Google Maps cannot?
It allows me to see the same a whole range of things. It allows me to see the imagery in different time periods. It allows me to see the imagery in different topographical conditions, like when it is rained, when it is this thing. It allows me to see underneath the surface a little bit by analyzing the health of the soil or the health of the plant that is growing on top.
Underneath the surface?
Yeah.
Like how? Is it predictive? Or like, do you actually see underneath the soil?
No, there are very subtle differences on the surface of the earth that you can notice. So, for example, if there is this money plant, okay, there are two pots of the exact same size, but आधे के अंदर pebbles मैंने डाल दिए हैं और फिर soil में और ऐसी money plant. So this plant health will be compromised, right? Because it has fewer nutrients at the bottom and all of that. And this, or not even just compromised, but it will grow differently. It will look visibly different that under certain scanners can become more visible. So it allows, all those softwares allows us to do that. And the thing is, like, if you've already excavated a site and a site is overground, right? My thing using satellite imagery is like, I want to see how much more does this extend underground, right? Okay. And where is it just soil, right? So you can know exactly where to start digging and how much to dig and where is the more concentration point of something.
Do you ever have those things they show in movies and cartoons जो वो एक detector होता है उसके अंदर वो घर पे जो scientists बनाते हैं inventors थे ना and then they're like फिर वो आवाज़ करने शुरू कर देता है beep 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 and then they find the treasure.
Today at 3 o'clock I told you I have a big meeting, right?
Yeah.
So I'm meeting these geologists who are coming with these industrial sized metal detectors. Okay. Because a jewelry location has been found at an archaeological site and we want to take these metal detectors tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday, right? Yeah. So I have to go to the site tomorrow and...
That's not in Delhi?
It's in UP.
Wow, so you're going to go there by road, I'm assuming?
I'll drive in the same car.
You'll drive and then you're going to go in there with these geologists and...
ASI archaeologists and myself, and then we're going to explore that area as to what kind of technology gives us what kind of data and which mound.
Matlab, because you've done a bunch of things, but like what other walks of life does this field of study attract? Kaise, like are they like regular people who have like full-fledged normal kaam karte and they're just interested in, like, who are your colleagues?
My colleagues are archaeologists. The other people are cultural enthusiasts who come here. But when you are working with the ASI, you really have to be a hardcore archaeologist. By the way, working with the ASI as an independent person is very, very rare. Okay. And the reason that this has happened is because I was a representative of the Title Trust and I've spent 3.5 years building and proving myself to the ASI at every step of the way that I am a serious academic and I am of some use. And that that is when I have been included into the fold of scientific expeditions that the government is taking to discover archaeological sites. So this is not something that is easy to get in. How to become an archaeologist is an interesting question. Obviously, you have to study archaeology. Where you have to study it from India so that you can work with the ASI closely and walk up the rungs is also another conversation that is very, very interesting. But yeah, if you are an archaeologist like me who studied abroad, studied a range of subjects, worked in a range of fields, how I can be useful to this organization, I've had to prove that. And that's why I'm doing this. Being given the opportunity, actually.
There's a lot of flack that I think whoever जो भी organization होती है receives, because if you look at some of the monuments, people have like Rahul loves Priya type की चीज़ें कर रखी होती हैं उनके ऊपर जाके, right? There's that public disfiguration happening.
Yeah.
Then I've also seen that I was at the Basilica of Bomb Jesus in Goa because I had read Ashwin Sanghi's book Rosable Lines. So I ended up just with my family back then. I ended up going there and I found that there was a crypt leading down to the basement.
It's a really important historic site. Isn't it the same place where the saint is also buried?
I think so.
And if you prick him, blood will come out?
Yes,
yeah.
I think so, which is why it was closed off by the ASI. But having had this myth in my head, I basically...
What year did you go? Because there was a very interesting archaeological dig that was happening, which I'd love to tell you about over
this, there. This is probably when I was in, I'd say, 9th or 10th grade, so 2012.
Yeah. So you know what the story is? It's quite a nice story.
Yeah,
actually.
Please.
Recently, so never in the world it happens that you find an archaeological artifact in your country and then you send that is found in your country to another country as a gift. Never it happens, okay? The law does not allow that. But recently, India gifted a bone relic to Georgia, the country, not the state in America.
I know Georgia.
But Georgia, the country, because that bone relic belonged to a really important religious person for Georgia. So we returned, the archaeological survey actually returned it. And why it was closed was because that site was under excavation by the ASI for 10 years. To find that relic. And that relic has a great sense of importance in the larger narrative of Christianity in Asia and around the world as a relic that is of a saint that had to be returned to a particular country. But that's why that church was closed. But they were doing important things, don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was wondering. Because मैं तो एक public के अंदर हूँ, right? It's the same as you go anywhere as a consumer, as an admirer, as an enthusiast. There's only parts of the things you see, right? I mean, I'm sure when you go to a site, you're like, ये ribbon, इसका क्या मतलब है? I'm just going to go right past, right? It doesn't. But what is happening in the back of like all of these monuments, या फिर जो important sites होती हैं, like what is happening? Are people brushing stuff up? Like how are even you doing it? Like when you go look at, say, you find a painting or some inscription in the wall, do you have a Rolodex or like a Google search कि यार ये इसका है? Like do you do it by intuition? Like how do you figure out?
You do it by training.
How?
Okay, so you worked for India Art Fair, right?
For 2 weeks.
Yeah, for 2 weeks. But we looked at a lot of art, all kinds of art, right? And now, maybe from the day that you joined to work with India Art Fair, as opposed to having seen the fair and looked at that quantity of art, maybe your idea of what is refined may have slightly altered a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Now that happens by seeing. Art history, archaeology, you know.
By seeing.
Seeing. The art of seeing is very important because your eyes will even tap into knowledge that you may have forgotten, but it will tap into that. Like this looks familiar. Right? With that feeling of this looks familiar. Why does this look familiar? Because you have something in there that you have seen and it has to just match the column, right? So it is by training. It is not, and you have to be on the field for the longest time. पहले जब सैटेलाइट रिमोट सेंसिंग नहीं होती थी, हमको आर्कियोलॉजिकल साइट्स कहाँ मिलते थे? माउंट के नीचे ना, एक टापू सा मिलता था. सडनली इट्स लाइक फ्लैट लैंड, तराई एरिया, यहाँ पर ये राजस्थान एरिया इज सपोज टू बी फ्लैट लैंड, बट सडनली यू सी अ टापू विच इज अ सैंडी टापू, नॉट अ रॉकी टापू. There can be a site underneath that, you know. So that your eye gets trained to those things. Like suddenly, why is there an incline over here? You know, like this is strange. This is not the topography. So knowledge of good geography, you know, knowledge of historic events and geographic importance of places. Like Madhya Pradesh में क्या हो रहा था? क्या हुआ है मध्य प्रदेश में? You know, to understand that, okay, if I'm in this location, can I find something? So you have to have deep-seated knowledge, years of training. लोग PhD करते हैं, लोग सालों फील्ड पे गुजारते हैं और फिर आर्कियोलॉजिस्ट हमेशा बूढ़े क्यों दिखते हैं?
Oh, because it takes so much time.
It takes so much time, dude. It's like a really slow knowledge.
And it involves your physical presence. It's not a digital career.
No, it's on the field. It's like with your hands. Like I have actually super rough hands, and I have like, actually leathery like man skin because I love being out in this field situation.
What's the story of maybe Mangar Meda? You know Mangar, right? Of course you would know it. And not as a generic person living in Gurgaon, Faridabad, Delhi, you would not, but because of what you do, you know it. Some locals were telling me they've discovered some paintings there or some inscriptions that they said were even older than...
They've discovered frescoes over there, right?
Fresco क्या होता है?
Fresco जो दीवार पे पेंटिंग की जाती है.
अच्छा, okay.
है ना, जैसे तुम
Hey guys, I worked at IND Art Fair for 2 weeks, clearly.
We were not showing frescoes over there, we were showing paintings and conceptual art. But, when you go to these Jaipur Haveli type of things, you see paintings on the side of the arches, no?
Right.
That is called frescoes. Paintings on the roof.
Yeah.
Michelangelo की fresco है वो painting नहीं है, वो fresco है. So I think they found that over there, right?
Achha, it's becoming very important all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But that place also weirdly reminds me of Hampi because I went to Hampi in 2016.
So cool that place.
And I lived in Anengedi.
Nice.
Instead of the...
Anegudi, right?
And yeah, the one across the Tungabhadra River, right?
Across the river, that small village area.
Yeah,
the older part.
The older part. The part where all the Israeli hippies hang out. So that's where I lived.
Did you go swim in the pond, dude?
I did not.
Shit. Indians never go to that pond.
Oh, actually I did.
हमें शर्म लगती है.
नहीं, I correct myself. हमने एक ऑटो ड्राइवर से दोस्ती कर ली थी. हमने कहा यार हमें ना ये कृष्णदेव राय की नगरी होगी जरूर. हमें ना वो करा जो कोई नहीं करता. So then he took us to this. We crossed like a gushing river and stones. बहुत बड़े बड़े boulders के ऊपर चप्पलों में हम गए. And we cliff dived. And that pond. We went to the pond. Yes.
Good.
Fun that's times, very cold. It is also on GoPro. That's
superb.
That's like 6 years ago. But my point is, when I went to Hampi, I couldn't help but feel, there's this hike you can do to the Hanuman temple up there. I couldn't help but feel a sense of prehistoric, just looking at those massive rock formations, not dur se.
It's like nature's Lego, right? I love Hampi because of that. It's like the vista is like you have temples, right?
Right.
With a pinnacle, with a peak like that. And then you have these Lego-like boulder upon boulder mountains over there.
Yeah.
It's such a...
It's natural?
It's natural, obviously. It is completely wind eroded. Like this is like an old hill that has been eroded by wind for years. So geologically, this is quite an old, ancient, prehistoric, more than that, landscape. That's why it is like completely eroded. Yeah.
So, matlab, you're saying...
It's not like the Himalayas, jadi booty, right?
Right.
यहाँ पर soil भी नहीं है. It's just Lego. It's like rock Lego, one on top of the other.
But is it possible that वो एक पहाड़ था, but through wind erosion, it's become rocks that are just on top of each other? But what, because it's so,
geologist नहीं हूँ मैं.
But because it was fascinating कि ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है कि जहाँ आपकी आंखें जाती है वहीं पे सब ऐसे same पत्थर के ऊपर पत्थर. Why is it not like messy?
It's so rounded, right? So like when you go to like the Himalayas, that's sedimentary rock, that's young rock, that has kind of folded up like that.
Right.
So when you see परतें होती है ना, layers होती हैं. तो जब ये तुम कर्नाटका का लेगो रॉक्स देखो ना, that's also परतें ही हैं. But the boulder is much thicker, much bigger. And I think this is old igneous rock, I'm not too sure. But it is thicker and it is rounded on the edges. So the wind has been going through the crevices for eons, to have that rounded nature. So
interesting.
Yeah, I think it's the same.
Wind can erode like a mountain like that?
Wind and water can get in anywhere. Of course it can erode a mountain like that. What are you talking about? Have you seen the Grand Canyon? Look at what wind and water has done to that.
I have no idea.
Dude, Grand Canyon तो पिक्चरों में देखा है यार.
नहीं वो तो मेरे को पता है.
नदी चल रही है नीचे.
वो मेरे को पता है पर वो erode कैसे हुआ है ना?
Forces of nature, man. That's like having studied religion for such a long time. You know what is my one big scare besides amphibians and reptiles? Forces of nature. Forces of nature can be damn scary, and we are living in a very scary time now. तो जब भी बारिश होती है मेरे को लगा climate change कुछ सब कुछ बह जाएगा अभी.
Yeah, I used to as a kid. I would just open mouth and like, wow, बारिश हो रही है. Now I'm like acid rain.
Acid rain.
Get out
acid
of here.
rain.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
But that. See, I had no idea कि ये सब चीज़ें भी होती हैं. It's mostly because I just look at these things like, wow, cool लग रहा है. But when you have the training that you have, I guess you just see things differently.
I think we see things from the history of things perspective.
Yeah, you and the band people that you work with.
Yeah. And just generally people who work in this field of culture, it's just generally you look at the history of things a little bit more. It gets you to where you are right now a little bit better, a little bit stronger, I feel.
How can someone get into what you do? Like get into archaeology beyond the obvious field digging and stuff? Are there other ways in which someone can...
You can train, you can go to these training institutes. So Institute of Archaeology that is run by the Archaeological Survey of India here in Greater Noida, quite a cool building. They built a new building. First, this training used to happen at the Red Fort.
Okay.
वहाँ पर था स्कूल आर्कियोलॉजी का. अब यहाँ पर there they have diploma courses, so you can do those courses if you'd like, but you have to give it time. It's a technical course. You are becoming a proper archaeologist. So stone rubbing, bead की differentiation, मेरे satellite remote sensing में lab की training होएगी, वगैरह, right? So A, obviously study it. B, you can go to these other, you can be a guide. So you can go to the National Scouts of India and Guides. यहाँ पर ये राजघाट के opposite Old Delhi दरियागंज के पास उसका office लगता है. And you can sign up, you can do a training course. Like how can one be a mountaineer? Mountaineering का course करो.
Basic mountaineering course होता है ना, हाँ. Wait, so this is very fascinating. National Scouts and Guides.
Yeah.
You can do a course and become a guide for some tourist places.
हमेशा गाइड मिलता है.
हाँ.
गाइड के पास आईडी कार्ड भी रहता है.
Correct.
उसकी ट्रेनिंग कहीं से हुई है, उसकी सर्टिफिकेशन कहीं से हुई है, वहाँ पर जाके करो तुम भी अपनी.
Okay, so then you can just, I can just do like a weekend course if I want and just be a guide.
Yeah, you can be a certified guide. Yeah. You can just be a guide just by yourself. You can go to Majnu ka Tilla, explore that area and be like, let me take you for walks around Majnu ka Tilla. Let's explore the Tibetan refugee area of Delhi and the historic. Majnu ka Tilla is a very important historic site before the Tibetan refugee.
I thought it's just for buses.
I thought it was just for momos, bro.
Why is it important, Majnu ka Tilla?
Majnu ka Tilla historically, so वहाँ पे बहुत बड़ा गुरुद्वारा है.
Okay.
Where Guru Nanak himself had visited that area actually.
This is not Bangla Sahib.
No, I'm talking about Majnu ka Tilla.
This is not
near
the Bangla Sahib Gurdwara.
No,
Okay,
this is not. This is the Majnu ka Tilla Gurdwara.
That's what it's called.
Yes,
Okay.
it's called Majnu ka Tilla because of that Gurdwara, right? And so I think Guru Nanak visited there, and thus that site, that Gurdwara is built there because it's a very important place for Sikhs over there. And then it has some history with some Mughal king also over there. And then finally that land was given by the Sikhs to the Indian government to get to build the Tibetan refugee colony that later was built over there, what is called monastery.
What's your fascination with houses?
Ooh, Delhi houses. Oh, because I'm a Delhi person, man. Like I've seen the length and breadth of Delhi because my native...
So just for context, Delhi Houses is the Instagram page she runs where she documents the fading culture of Delhi ke purane ghar jis tarah se
I just document and write about pre-stilt modern Delhi houses.
Sorry, pre-stilt?
Pre-stilt. So
what is that?
The regulation right now in all houses that have to be constructed new, that you have to build your houses on stilts because they should have parking at the bottom, right?
That's the new thing that's happening.
That's
yes.
the new thing. But before that, because these stilted now, most of these houses kind of look the same, right? Now houses are also becoming buildings. They're no longer bungalows or,
Builder floors सारे same. सब में false ceiling. सब बाहर से एक जैसे वो wood लगा के फिर शीशा लगा के फिर.
Correct.
Yeah.
So essentially Delhi House is documenting the last generation of family homes of Delhi, So it could be even a flat. Like my recent post is about student housing in North Campus.
Yeah.
Which is also a very important part of housing. I have to say that, dude, if you have been to DU, you're a Delhi wala. It doesn't matter what state you come from, where your native is. You are a Delhi wala because DU ka bachcha Delhi wala ban gaya.
So architecturally, जो लोग ऐसी जगहों पे रह रहे हैं, you think they're missing out on like just living in lived-in houses of Delhi?
It depends on a choice, right? Some people care about the house that they live in. Some people have a house just to sleep in, right? Like I've always cared about houses. I care about architecture because of the field that I work in, obviously. Right. So for me, it's like a very deep experience. The home is a very deep experience for me and very close to my heart. So I think it's an experience living in different houses. I've lived in nice houses. I've lived in small houses. I've lived in a small studio apartment in Japan. I've lived in a traditional Japanese house also. I've lived in an English home. I've lived in a tilted house. I've lived in a New York apartment. So and everywhere I've taken my spice box. So I'm quite a homey person. And Delhi houses comes from me being a Delhi person who has seen Delhi, so like my native is near Singhu border on the Delhi side, which is a small Mano ka gaon. It's a village. It's a Jatt village called. My father is Jatt, so I can't. So his village.
Oh, you're also Jatt? Not Jatt.
I'm like a Haryanvi Jatt. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, but from Delhi because our native is that village called Holambi Khurd.
क्या दोस्तों आपको पता है यहाँ पे गुजर और जाट बैठे हैं? What are the odds?
In Faridabad.
Yeah.
And one of us has driven a Fortuner and come here. So
मैं भी फॉर्च्यूनर में आने वाला था. Just,
oh, dude.
Yeah. It was so funny.
Yeah. It's funny because yesterday I met my gym bro friend outside the gym and he's also Jatt and he sometimes trains me and we both got into our car and both got into a Fortuner. And I was like...
मुझे लगता था ये stereotypes ना सिर्फ if I just keep doing this podcast, these stereotypes will go away. But you come in with all this breadth of knowledge and all the things you've done, and you come in a Fortuner.
Yeah. So my native is near Singhu border, and I lived in that village in a village home, which was like a typical Delhi style house, and it was very fascinating because our home was one home and it had like a cow shed and all, जैसे गाँव का बड़ा घर होता है, और उसके पास जो competing family का घर था, तो हमारा घर था competing in a village. You always have families that compete for the same standing. इस साल ये पंचायत बन गए, इस साल ये प्रधान बन गए, इस साल ये चौधरी हो गया, इस साल ये चौधरी हो, ऐसे करके, राइट? उनके बच्चे भी एजुकेशन में compete करते वगैरह,
नंबरदार बन गए.
हाँ. So हमारा घर था आर्ट डेको स्टाइल और उनका घर था आर्ट नूवो स्टाइल. एंड आई जस्ट
सॉरी अनिका, ये मेरे लिए बहुत फनी है कि ये यहाँ पे ये जाट परिवार हैं, ये आर्ट डेको आर्ट नूवो कर रहे हैं. ये क्या चीज़ है?
Because that was the architectural style of India at that time. Modern India had that.
But they didn't know it. Like you know it because of your art history background. No one knew कि हम ऐसे घर में रह रहे हैं.
And art nouveau and art deco are not something that happened at the same time. Like art nouveau was a bit before art deco because उनके घर थे जालीज, झरोकेज, आर्चेज वगैरह वगैरह, और हमारा था स्लाइटली बंगलो स्टाइल, बिग बैल्कनीज, सीमेंटेड ग्रिल्स, बिग डोरवेज,
जैसे लुटियंस में थोड़े से,
हाँ वैसे करके. बट ऑन दिल्ली हाउसेज आई कॉल्ड इट द एनाटॉमी ऑफ अ विलेज मैंशन, कि घर विलेज के घरों में क्या क्या होता है. चौक होती है, काउ शेड होता है,
डुप्लेक्स भी तो होता है,
घोड़े का अस्तबल भी होता है. हाँ,
डुप्लेक्स भी तो होता है घर, विलेज मैंशन.
हाँ हो सकता है. हमारा तो फ्लोर्स थे और वो आगे पीछे थे. बैठक होती है, एक कमरा
बैठक होती है, हाँ,
बैठक होती है, टेराजो के फ्लोरिंग होते हैं, ऊपर बीम होती है, यू डोंट हैव दैट काइंड ऑफ फॉल सीलिंग वाली चटनी होती है, बीम होती है. हाँ, दूध के,
there's always an outhouse bathroom as well on the side.
There's always an outhouse bathroom. There's granary rooms क्योंकि ये जाटों का घर है, तो यहाँ पर तो हम तो खेत चलाते हैं, तो बाहर के 2 कमरे, used to call it ओबरे. ओबरे में बिग स्टील कंटेनर्स आते हैं जिसमें तुम्हारा गेहूँ, राइस वगैरह, फिर इट्स लाइक दैट.
बहुत मौज भरी जिंदगी रही है यार. नहीं, इट्स जस्ट दैट आई वुडंट परसीव योर लाइक यू आप क्या, फॉर द लैक ऑफ अ बेटर वर्ड, आप मिट्टी से जुड़े हुए हो क्वाइट लिटरली.
मैं बिल्कुल मिट्टी से जुड़ी हुई हूँ यार.
Yeah.
I mean, how much more? Yeah, I mean,
like it's just like एक तो होता है ना कि ऐसे colonial style, क्या कहते हैं कि village mansion style जगह में रहना, तो वो एक अलग चीज़ है. But then taking it one step further with the archaeology and all of that, it allows for, I guess, it allows for a lot of folklore to be mixed with academy and practical experience, so you can actually appreciate like
not just
where
folklore,
you live,
but street knowledge, right? Like what I have seen, and this is where even Delhi houses came from, because I lived near Singhu border and I went to college in LSR. I went through the entire city. North Delhi से मैं GK तक आई हूँ, रोज मैं आती थी क्लास के लिए, तो I used to see the entire city, and उस time metros were also, I've seen the city build up, I've gone to Karol Bagh, और उधर भी Lutyens Delhi style के घर होते थे. आप रिज एरिया में जाओ नॉर्थ कैंपस के, क्योंकि हमारे, बिकॉज आई लिव नियर सिंघू बॉर्डर, द क्लोजेस्ट मार्केट प्लेस वाज कमला नगर, राइट, विच इज़ दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी एरिया. वहाँ के घर देखती थी मैं, और वो कैसे इवॉल्व हुए. सो because I work in archaeology, I've had this fascination for architecture and urban landscape for the longest time. I'm also like a deeply romantic person to my city, And that's why I said I'm a Delhi wala. I've seen this city, I love this city, and I'm nostalgic about it. I'm like a typical 90s nostalgic kid as well, So yeah, I mean, this is just like my romance with the city, Delhi houses, and I really want everyone to, most of my pictures are actually sent by other people. And they're like, I saw this today. I said, can you email me that photo? And then whatever I write is my copy because I want to
You
create
added
a
the
moment.
experience to it, huh?
No, for me, my brief to myself is that I'm creating a moment. While you're looking at this picture, I just want to paint you a picture. When you read this caption, I just want to paint you a picture and like leave you with an emotion. That's my brief to myself. So I don't go into the historicness of something like that. So it's just like, it's writing with that perspective, not...
यहाँ पे फरीदाबाद में they have this there's this place called Labor Chalk, ठीक है, where अब उसका नाम कुछ और हो गया है, I think it's लाल बहादुर शास्त्री चौक now, but वहाँ पे सुबह सुबह दिहाड़ी के लेबर्स जितने भी इनको जाना होता है they all sit, right, and then ठेकेदार आता है या लोग आते हैं, they're starting a new project and they pick the labor up, the labor gets in cars या जो भी कुछ होता है and they go away. So my problem with Faridabad has been it's such a driving city that because there are no footpaths, people don't stop at transitional. Everything is a transitional place.
Yeah.
You go from house to another building. You go from building to school to cafe. You barely walk. Delhi has more of those avenues where you say even if you go by car, you can park your car there and then spend the entire day on foot, right? And as a result, when you spend a lot of time on foot, you see things and you meet people and you see ऐसी चीज़ें दिखती है कि यार ये मुझे पता ही नहीं था. That's when you find like small little like nooks of beauty that you can't put on TripAdvisor because they're too small. They're not like continuous, right?
Yeah.
कि आप बोल सकते हो ये spiritual या historical significance की जगह है. So I was at Labor Chalk and I was like, why don't I just park my bicycle and just sit? And so I just sat there.
Yeah.
And what was very interesting, it was a Friday evening, around 5 p.m. Second wave की just बाद. And now I'm sitting and I'm observing the city. लोग आ रहे हैं तेज़ी से अपनी गाड़ियों में जा रहे हैं, कोई परिवार कहीं जा रहे हैं, भाई बुआ मामा के घर जाना जो भी कुछ है. एक इंसान अकेले बियर पीते हुए उसके गोल चक्कर के आसपास घुमाया जा रहा है गाड़ी. And I was like, my God, we're always transiting from one place to the other. We rarely spend time just sitting and observing कि चल क्या रहा है.
It is people watching is so great. It is something that just calms me down so much. Especially like going for dinner. If I was to go with my partner sometime, we've been going around for a long time. We love our little dinners where we'll sit down and then both of us are just like people watching together. And then we're talking about people watching with each other. Because what are you going to talk about? How was your day? I just told you. So you talk about people watching. And then we have this funny thing about, people watching and watching the city go by. Like my favorite time in the day is like early in the morning to go out and watch the city wake up. And most of the photographs that I have taken on Delhi houses is early in the morning. Like and also like when you go for a nice little workout, right? And like you come back, you feel pretty pumped. You're like, let's do something, And that's when the creativity really flows. So like I'll take a photo while coming back and then I'll sit down with my cup of coffee and over the cup of coffee, I'll draft my copy out and I'll take a shower, come back, I've marinated in it. I'll read it one last time and then I'll post it.
Fantastic. I have a very similar experience. It involves working out and like being in the sun out.
Yeah.
क्योंकि अगर तुम दिन में you're doing a bunch of procedural work, context switching left and right, then it's just harder to write something of that capacity. I have also found lately that I've been spending so many nights outside away from Faridabad and in Delhi and Gurgaon. Sometimes you come home late after a night of drinking or enjoying yourself, whatever. जो वो मिक्सिंग होती है ना कि जहाँ सुबह 5 बजे का क्राउड उठ के वॉक करने जा रहा है और वर्कआउट करने जा रहा है और तुम आ रहे हो और अच्छा क्या है बिकॉज इट्स ऑल लाइक you have like that faint alcohol buzz and I even wear these tinted glasses, right? So what's happening is you're seeing that अब ये bittersweet moment है मैं सो जाऊँगा थोड़ी देर में. You're seeing the city for what it is. But when you meet those people's eyes, there's this a very weird tension. Because वो शुरू कर रहे हैं अपना दिन और वो they cannot even imagine.
और तुम्हारा walk of shame चल रहा है.
और तुम्हारा walk of shame, तुम्हारा drive of fame चल रहा है तुम्हारा और तुम सोच रहे हो कि कितना अच्छा शहर है ना. अभी इस पेड़ के नीचे बैठ के थोड़ी देर गाना सुन के I'll just sit here.
Yeah.
But it's just the wrong time to lounge in the city.
Yeah.
Because it's go time for everyone else.
Yeah.
So whenever I see more people who have had nights like that, it's like like small fraternity of people like, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
You're not one of these people.
Yeah.
But it's also nice to then be that morning person and then shit on the people who are like
honestly
in.
I used to love that feeling when you used to come back from a late night and you're like coming and sun is coming up and you're like wow. So many times I've taken my girlfriends to a site like a monument like yeah chal Nizamuddin chalte hain uske and we are doing the full walk hum party clothes mein and that is happening now. If I'm out and for some strange reason I have been out where I see dawn breaking, I am abusing the shit. I'm like, shit! What the shit? Like, what have I done? Like, I should be in bed. Like, oh my God. Like, this is disgusting. Anica, why? Because I've had my share of fantastic fun. No party surprises me right now. Like मैंने बहुत मजे किए हैं, you know. Now, if I'm up so late, and then I know that it is a 2-day investment that I've made now. अब 2-day, 2 दिन के लिए I will be recovering from this.
Yeah, no, you were up at dawn. I saw you accepted my Google invite at 8 a.m. I was like, all right.
I was up before that, but I don't check my phone for some time before.
How do you manage that? I've been in and out, like semi-successful with that.
I was like that, and it was part of my New Year's resolution one year. And what I did was I just forced myself to wake up at 7 a.m. And I did that painfully for days. And I think they say, right, you do something for 11 days, it'll become part of your routine.
Right.
So after 4-5 days, I automatically started waking up earlier, and I just kept it going.
No, the waking up part is easy. The phone part.
The phone part is hard. Sometimes I do give in. Like the phone part is very... But in Japan, it was very easy to do because I had gone from that... वो जो मोटा वाला Nokia होता था ना? Sporty Spice
The
Nokia.
N series.
Yeah, something like that, you know. Like it was like this rounded मोटा वाला Nokia होता था.
Or the 8810s. Yeah.
Yeah, that 8810. And then I had gone from that. Then I'd gone to Japan. So this smartphone thingy wasn't a very big deal for me. So there it was very easy. But when I came back to India now, because so much work can happen on the phone that it's become muscle memory. So ये muscle memory बड़ी तंग हो गई है, you know, like.
And that's on cue. It's 1:35 p.m. Wow, bro, I would love to have you on Dostcast again because there's so many. I was just like, let's talk about this for 10 minutes and then we have to go. But I would like sit down with more time and discuss all of these things in a later part of this. अभी हम timeline decide नहीं करेंगे, but I should definitely have you on.
Sure, it was good fun, man.
Yeah, mad fun, and I think your online presence does not do justice to the sort of life you've lived.
I'm okay with that. And I am okay with that.
मैं content creator हूँ ना, मैं हर चीज़ को बेचने की सोचता हूँ.
नहीं, मेरे को कुछ नहीं बेचना है यार. नहीं, मेरे को कुछ नहीं बेचना है. मेरे को घर जाके अपने डॉगी के पास सोना है. You know.
Fair. Yeah. That's you know, it's you just wanna. Just do the things that you do and enjoy yourself.
Do the things that I do, and if it's of some use, then that's great, and no regrets. And
so you've got this podcast called "Don't
Run into Glass."
Yeah. You host it with someone called Gayati for The Citizen, which is an online publication.
Yeah, it's a newspaper.
Parallelly, you also have Delhi Houses, which is your Instagram page.
Yes.
I'm trying to find what else is your public proof of work or where people can connect with you if they want to.
Delhi Houses.
Yeah. All right. Sweet. It was great having you on Dostcast. Please listen to Don't Run Into Glass. It's a great podcast. They even had a comedian on recently. That's it. Thank you for being on Dostcast.
I loved coming here. Dude, you have a great little space out here. Please invite me back again.
For sure.
Cool.
All right. See you next Tuesday or Friday whenever the next Dostcast comes out. Bye-bye.